We are against those thugs.
They call us the jailblazers, but ain't nobody go to jail.
It's the thuggish ruggers ball. It's the thuggish ruggers ball. It's the thuggish ruggers ball.
Going to Portland and then having within 30 days kind of everything crumble from a product perspective of what was happening. Within 30 days, we laid off 88 people. During that time, the president got let go, the GM got let go. I mean, it was unbelievable. Then you had players every 2 weeks that were getting in trouble.
Welcome to Sports Business Unplugged, where the real game happens off the field. No fluff, no filters, just raw, uncut stories from the pros shaping the industry. Their journeys, their challenges, their passion, straight from the source. Let's talk sports business.
All right. Hello, everybody. This is Sports Business Unplugged, the show where we have real and relatable conversations with the people that power the sports industry. Today's guest is Tom Fletcher. He is recently the Senior Vice President of Corporate Partnerships for the Houston Rockets. He is also a longtime business executive with a career that spans the NBA, the WNBA, college athletics, and even the nonprofit world. He's built innovative partnerships with the Phoenix Suns and Mercury that led to revenue at IMG College. He's overcame early career pivots after his time as a college football player. He's seen it all. Today, we are diving into his journey, his mindset, and the moments that shaped his path in sports. Hello, Tom. How are you doing today?
Doing well, Andrew. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much. And I'm excited for this one here. So, first of all, you went to SDSU. You were a student athlete, and you had a short stint in the NFL. How did you transition after your playing career ended? And did you ever imagine that you'd end up back as an NBA executive?
Not at all. It wasn't even on my radar. Back when I went to school and back when I played, they didn't have the sports marketing program, and it certainly wasn't something that you thought you could have a career in sports that was outside of broadcasting or being in scouting or one of those paths of the business. And for me, when I got done playing, I thought I was going to end up in law enforcement, or I even went to the front office at the Seahawks and was like, hey, maybe I'll look at scouting or kind of go that route. And they recommended that I avoid that direction. And I try to take the degree and do something with it. So I kind of fell into kind of where I ended up after playing football. I literally took a temp job at 24 Hour Fitness in their marketing department to kind of wait and see kind of what was next, as I was kind of vacillating between some different opportunities and options, and fell in love with the marketing side of things. I'd never even studied that in college and thought that this was kind of an incredible tie. At the same time, I was taking tests with the local police departments and went through lie detector background, the whole thing, got a couple offers. 24 Hour Fitness found out about it, offered to make a significant pay increase and full-time opportunity for that. And let's just say the 24 Hour Fitness path was the path that was chosen, and where to go. And that kind of led my foray into kind of the sports world.
What did that 24-hour fitness job teach you about selling?
So for me, I was in marketing, right? So my job was to create promotional events and opportunities at the clubs themselves to help the sellers sell. It was also to build this sports marketing program that a lot of folks were starting in that time, because again, this was the late 90s. And so it was kind of the first foray of sports marketing. And so for me, it was learning it from the ground up. We literally had to invent it and create what the opportunity was. So for me, it taught me about kind of what challenged those folks in the club to sell outside of January, because everybody signs up for a fitness club in January. And then most of them don't come back until December or the following January. That's kind of how the business works. But it really taught me the dynamics of what was the trigger point for selling. Certainly didn't think I was going to be a seller. I was a communications major and minor in English, and did public speaking all the time and stuff, and but never kind of went down the road from a sales perspective. That was not the road where I thought I would go down. But I started working for or partnering with all these teams and pro sports teams and college teams and working with athletes and stuff. And I started looking at it from a different lens and was like, I'm going to all these events and these events don't matter to me. It's great to go watch, but team wins or loses, it doesn't really matter on my end. So that is kind of what led to the shift of what I really wanted my path to be at that time.
Do you think that that experience led kind of shaped the way that you approach your deals now in the NBA?
I think it shapes the way that I probably look at people and I'm in my communications degree, it's all about nonverbal communication. It's all about kind of what are you getting back from the person that you're interacting with. And I think in a gym, in a club, you see so many people come into that club all the time and all different reasons of why they would be there. So to work with our sellers on why folks wanted to be a part of that, I think it helped with the humanization of what you're dealing with people for sure. And then working with the teams and being on the team side, excuse me, the client side of the business before going to the team side, it allowed me to see what was important to us. How do I approach a prospective partner different than if it would have been if I just kind of come up through the team side of it and really never saw it from a partner perspective.
What did that teach you about making relationships and people and kind of value?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it, one of the biggest challenges around a fitness industry or around doing deals with teams, any of that is trust, transparency, any of those kind of things that I call attributes for me of how do you make sure that you're as straightforward as you can be. And I think anytime you've ran into roadblocks around it, it was because you came across folks that didn't operate that way. And you come off as a used car salesman or whatever it is, not against anything about people who sell cars, but that authenticity I think is important, and that's what I've tried to build my career on.
And that kind of what was there any, funny or awkward experiences or moments you had at your time during 24-hour fitness
I don't know about awkward.
or
I
memorable?
don't know. I would say the one that was probably most memorable for me, and I went to every sporting event you can imagine: World Series, Pro Bowl, Super Bowl, All Stars. Like, I mean, everything and anything you can imagine. I was at all of it, and it was amazing. I would say the one that gave me another hobby. Um, we had a grand opening event at a new club that we had in the Bay Area, and our spokesperson at the time was Cindy Crawford. And I'm standing on stage with Cindy Crawford, and we're getting ready for this kind of auction event and to raise money and all that. And the auctioneer didn't show up. And so I'm standing on stage with Cindy, and she's got an Omega watch that we were going to auction off for charity. So I took over the auction duties. And that was the very first auction I'd ever done. And that literally transferred into a side hobby for me where I was doing almost 20 auctions a year at different nonprofits and charity events. And that was kind of my little side hustle for many, 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 many years. And still today, I probably do 3 to 5 a year. And, and I, get into the cattle call piece of it, the 5.5 and a 5.5, now 10, and have some fun with it. And it was awesome. And it all started with being on stage with Cindy Crawford, and the guy who was supposed to do it didn't show up. So it was fun for me to take over.
That's crazy how some of these experiences can just start from just a little thing like that. That's
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. But it was
yeah.
cool. It was, I always go back to it. Like every auction has been downhill since then, I mean, you share a stage with Cindy Crawford. That's a pretty darn good way to start.
Yeah, that's a pretty good way to start. And you kind of transitioned to the Blazers, and that I feel like you were there kind of during the so-called jail Blazers era, and there was how I just it's hard for me to imagine how do you handle the negative press while trying to sell the sponsorships And how I don't is the culture does the culture of the team and the players, does everything change, or how does all of that work?
That's a good question. I would say when you look at things that shape your career, going to Portland and then having within 30 days kind of everything crumble from a product perspective of what was happening within 30 days. We laid off 88 people. During that time, the president got let go, the GM got let go. I mean, it was unbelievable. Then you had players every 2 weeks that were getting in trouble. Um, I would say the thing that was amazing is the people in the office, the teammates that we had were resilient, good people. Everybody was all in, and I think that was what allowed you to kind of band together and navigate it. I think it also made you a heck of a lot better at your job because you had to really understand what people wanted to do with you from a partnership perspective. It certainly became an opportunity to convey trust and authenticity because every scar or wound you had was in the paper in that market every day. And so people saw it. They knew what was going on. You couldn't hide anything. And so being honest and forthcoming about what we were navigating and the fact that we were all in to get it right made you better at what it is you do. And I think it's important for me. I've been in this business 25 years now. I think when the moves that I've made since then, which has only been a few of them, it made you prepared for whatever was going to come your way because nothing was as crazy as that when we first saw it because it was the advent of social media. So literally it was one that the social was picking it up, and that was kind of the first wave of something going quote unquote viral. It was a lot, but again, it made you better. We got on the other side of it, and that was unbelievable to get on the other side of that and get into a draft where you got Brandon Roy, LaMarcus Aldridge, and you saw the city coming alive and the market being electric. Then you end up with the number one pick, and you have the whole town going crazy for either Durant or Greg Oden. The playoff runs we had, sold out buildings like that. That was unreal to come on the other side of it, given where we were.
How did you how did you keep your team motivated as a leader when all this was going on?
I think part of it's just being present, and again, you're not in it by yourself. We're in it together. If you had a tough phone call you needed to make, bring me in the room or bring me to the client. Let's go together and have the conversation and be able to have the conversation with the client and say, look, it may not work for you right now. I get it. If we need to scale the investment back, we need to do something different. Let's do something different. We need to change the assets. Let's change the assets. The great part is, I would say we kept 90+% of our partners on board because they trusted who we were and what we did. Now, they changed some of their assets. They didn't use the marks and IP as much as they maybe had done before. They probably weren't running commercials that had players in it and our brand in it, but they stayed on board and they believed in what it was we were building and where we were going.
Is there a moment from that era that you specifically remember or vividly remember that just stands out?
In which way? Good or bad?
Either, either.
I'll just say on the bad side, we had a joke that it was um, always on a Tuesday. Like bad news was coming on a Tuesday. Like again, one of our players got busted in the airport with drugs on a Tuesday. 2 Tuesdays later, a player got busted getting pulled over on the road. 2 Tuesdays later, something happened. It was always one of those ones like we just joked around Tuesdays being the bearer of bad news. I would say the one for me that I tell folks there's a couple signature moments in my career in sports that are just like, man, you can't get that anywhere else. And again, on the heels of making the playoff run with Brandon LaMarcus, we ended up at the draft lottery, and we ended up at this draft party, 200 people at this draft party. We're supposed to be like pick number 7 or 8, and the ping pong balls come up. We're not 7 or 8, which meant we jumped to the top 4. They go away to commercial. We're all losing our mind. That's a Durant-Oden draft. And everybody thought you're 1 or 2 and you're going to be a home run no matter what. They come back from commercial, they throw 4 up, not us. So then we like, oh my gosh, they throw 3 up, it's not us. So it's either Seattle or us that have 1 or 2, and we're losing our mind because at least we know we're going to get one of the other. And then the number 2 pick was Seattle, and number 1 was us. And so that run for the next 45 days until the draft happened, we ran campaigns in market, honked once for Durant, honked twice for Oden. Like we just did this whole campaign around it. And we had 18,000 people at our arena the night of the draft going crazy. And that was one where it was that full circle moment, having gone what we had gone through the quote unquote jailblazer kind of run, that we knew like, okay, this is pretty special.
Yeah, yeah. Is it much easier to, create partnerships and sell when the team's doing good like that than when it's doing bad?
Oh, winning cures all. Winning cures all. I always joke about it, the fact that winning makes you smarter and better looking, and I need both. And so it's I always joke like, I mean, again, you win, your product gets the building gets more fun. Partnerships get brighter. So yeah, absolutely, the winning absolutely makes an impact and a difference. But you can't sell wins and losses because we can't control that. I talk about it all the time. Like I can only control, for the most part, the 2.5 hours from when the building opens and closes. And how do you create great experience for folks, win or lose, from when the building opens and the building closes? That's all we can control and all we can do.
So, as a someone that's worked in corporate partnerships, I'm just curious, what happens, during a playoff run or just during a game? Are you working during the game too, or is that the time when you're sitting back, do you get to watch the game or?
We're always on a game night. You're shaking hands, kissing babies. Is where we're on a game night. On a game night, we're hosting folks in the suite, whether that's existing partners or prospective partners. So it's certainly one of those where like I love game nights. Game nights to me is like playing the game for us, and it's a chance to host and entertain those people.
And then shortly after that, you transitioned to the world of college sports. You went to IMG and managed sponsorships for 16 different universities. That's a shift from the pro game. How did you go from NBA to IMG, and what were the biggest adjustments you had to make when selling the college experience as opposed to the NBA?
Um, I would say I thought I was going to stay on the NBA side for my career. Um, and during the lockout that happened, I saw kind of the impact it had on our president, and it was just one of those ones I'm like, maybe this is not the longevity of kind of where I want to go. And I started getting recruited, and one of the IMG at the time was adding 4 NBA executives to run the different regions, and my name got thrown in the mix, and I turned the job down probably 3 times, and there was an opportunity that was just I couldn't pass up, and I think the chance to be able to manage 16 different properties that were all different, from going from Gonzaga to UCLA or the Rose Bowl, and all different um, motivators for each of those schools. So for me, I thought it was incredible. I was a big college sports fan, and the opportunity to take college at that time, right, in 2011, where the college business was just exploding, long before NIL and all that other stuff that was coming in the fold. So it was an incredible opportunity to be able to showcase and elevate the college business. So yeah, 8 years, great run. And for me, I think the hardest part was I was on the road all the time. I was on the road Tuesday through Thursday, and it was a lot. And the road got kind of tough, and we had sold a couple times during that run as well too. And for me, it was one where the our company ended up merging or being acquired by our competitor. And at that time, it was like, all right, this is probably a good time to shift it and do something different.
Were there any deals from your stint there that you're particularly proud of?
Oh, it's a good question. Again, we had 16 different schools. I had a staff of 80 based at all of the schools themselves. I think the thing that was important is in the 8 years in the 16 schools, we didn't miss a budget. And so from us production wise, we knocked out the park. And so great team members that worked for us during that time and did some amazing deals across those properties. I think renewing some of those schools from a business perspective were an important one, and be able to help impact again pre NIL, pre any of that, be able to impact what the schools were doing from a revenue generation.
Yeah, and how is it is it just working with a team that leads you to be able to manage all 16 teams at once? Because I feel like, you know, obviously it's a little bit different, but in the NBA you're with one team, and in IMG you're doing 16. How does that work?
So I had a vice president that was my number two. So we split the schools essentially. And then we have a GM, a general manager at each of the schools that manage that property itself. So those general managers rolled up through us. So those general managers ran the day to day on the property each time. So you had to have great leaders that were on property because they're on an island. They could be slacking off each day. They could be whatever. Now the numbers show it if they are or not, but you have to have great leaders at those schools that you can trust in what it is they do. Let's talk Phoenix real quick. So I end up leaving IMG, kind of become a free agent for the first time in my career. Oh, well, actually, since I stopped playing football. Um, and gentleman who I had a great relationship with, and we've been friends for a long time. I tried to hire him at the two places that I was at between the Blazers and IMG. He ends up calling me and talking about what Phoenix is going to do, and they're going to put $250 million into the arena and through this renovation. And it was an amazing vision of what was going to happen on a team that had won 19 games. And so we agreed to go to work together and kind of reshape the way that the Suns were going to market. What an incredible opportunity. And that's when the courtside clubs became an option. We had, really a pop-up type club for our VIP ticket holders, which wasn't fantastic. And we created these three all-inclusive opportunities, one that was on a whole nother level for folks. And it was all about how do you create levels of experience that allow folks to, or I guess put people in a position to spend more, to be able to have that amenity. And that was incredible. So, and during that time of that renovation, 9 months of my job, COVID hit. That was awesome. In the middle of doing again, $250 million renovation while you were trying to rebrand and reshape everything about that program. But I will tell you what, we never had, maybe twice I had used Zoom. I had done maybe
Wow.
a Google Meet 2 times, 3 times. Never had been something we used because we tried to do everything in person, and it was just one of those ones we really didn't use it a whole lot. And we jumped on, we learned it. We had a partner in Verizon who had a partnership with Blue Jeans, and we used Blue Jeans as a video service and started jumping on. We did virtual happy hours every day at 4:30 to check in what was going on, what we were doing. Well, some teams really paused on what they were doing business wise. We ramped it up and we stepped up and started doing even more. And I think we closed during COVID about 150 million in contractually obligated income around these partnerships. So it was amazing of what we were able to orchestrate and pull off. A great vision from Dan Costello, who's our chief revenue officer at the Suns, of where we wanted to take this business and opportunity. And our partners stepped in. We brought in new folks to the mix as well, and incredible brands that wanted to align with each other. So it was incredible. And I just wrapped up 6 years with the team, and we took the revenue and basically took it 4 times what it was in the 6 years that I was there. And great, we call them team members, great team members that were with us, that were a part of that. Great partners that bought in to what it was we were doing, and great innovation. We won the NBA's Innovation Award the inaugural year with our partnership with PayPal. We won it a second time as well. And it was all about doing something different. What can we do that nobody else is doing? How can we look at it in a way that presents a great opportunity for our fans? How do we enhance the fan experience in the right way? And that's kind of how we looked at it, was being different. Let's chase brands that we want to partner with versus just calling anybody who's spending. And that's how we approach the business.
How do these ideas of being different and the creativity, how does that come to life? Is it just a meeting between you guys, or how does that work?
I think part of it's just figuring out the strategy behind it. Who are we going to be, and where are we going to go? As Dan and I kind of talked through, and he had a vision of it when I was coming in, and it was we're going to go to market right now. Again, we won 19 games. We're going to go to market of this is where we're going, and we're there now. So let's think about the business in the right way, and the fact that we're not going to just take deals. We're going to do deals at the right deals, the right level, the right leveling strategy that creates an opportunity for folks to spend at the right tiers based on what they can get back. So we created this Ring of Champions program that you had to be at a minimum of a $2 million investment for the rights to some of these assets that we unlocked. And we had probably 3 partners that were at 2 million. We set a bar at 10, and then we turned around and set the bar at 12. And I think we ended up at like 14 or something like that. But it was amazing how it just took off, and because people bought in. It's all about storytelling. It's all about painting the right picture, and the fact that hopefully they can believe in what it is.
How did you kind of take this and cultivate this creative environment for your team members, and how did you encourage them to be creative too as a leader?
Yeah, I think it's being hands-on. It's being hands-on. It's being supportive in it. It's a collaboration in how we approach it. And I think that's the thing that's important. None of our folks felt like they were in a vacuum, having to go chase it and get it on their own. I think the other piece is that for Dan, myself, and kind of the leadership, is we got our hands dirty. Also, in the fact that we're grinding just like the team members are, and making sure that we move the needle on the business. And that was important for us to show the fact that, look, we're all in this together. Here's our goal, and our goal is our goal, not just an individual number of what people have to achieve. And so again, we rolled up the sleeves and moved the needle. And again, partners, right brands want to partner with like brands, and we put ourselves in a pretty darn good position where brands wanted to associate with what we were building and what we stood for.
Yeah, and I just want to go back to the COVID era and what happened there. I'm just so
Trying
curious
to move
how.
on from the COVID era. I'm kidding.
Yeah,
What a,
but is was there a moment of doubt there before you guys figured everything out and figured out that this is what you want to do when everything started?
a moment of doubt? How about like a couple months of doubt?
Yeah.
I mean, what was it, March 13th, when Utah's playing OKC, and I'm sitting in my office, calling, I think it was a Tuesday night, and I'm sitting in my office because I think Trump was about to speak on something, and I'm looking up, and that game paused, and it was like we started the rumblings of maybe this COVID thing's going to come or whatever, and who knows, whatever. And again, that game gets shut down. We come in the office the next day, and then literally we weren't back in the office for, I don't know, 120 days or whatever it was. Um, so again, we're live events. Live events went away. So yeah, is there doubt? We're in the middle of our season. So when live events go away, what do you do there? I would say for us, again, we had great people around us, great teammates. We became creative in how we filled those gaps. I had never heard of Twitch. I had no idea what Twitch was, and zero clue. And our social digital content team came to us, and they're like, look, why don't we play our game on NBA 2K, and we'll take the schedule that we were supposed to have and then match up one of our players with one of the other team's players or a personality in our market versus theirs, and we'll stream it on Twitch and have them playing against each other. And let's bring some partners in and give them bonus time or sell them into whatever those assets were. And we did it enough to where we had the league questioning whether we were allowed to do it or not. But we played out the rest of our season streaming in a video game, and it opened up new opportunities for it. Then the one that was unreal was the bubble. It was like, okay, how do we figure this out? And the bubble comes to fruition. So it's all right. How do you tie partners into it? Where do the partners fit within the bubble broadcast? How do you bring fans in as virtual fans to the bubble? And so for us, that was the launching point for our team on the floor. We went 8-0 in the bubble, and it caught lightning in a bottle. What's amazing is still today, what is it, 5.5, 6 years later, the stuff that is still in the league that came out of the bubble, on-court virtual signage, that came from the bubble, that came from COVID. There's a lot of assets and integration on broadcast that we do today that came from having to create stuff that we couldn't create within an arena, that were a part of that.
So essentially, this COVID era kind of led to a year or a couple years of pretty insane creativity.
No doubt. I would say it, again, still today, right? Still to today. The amount of times that I'm on Zoom every day, or virtual meetings, or led to now a hybrid environment for a lot of people, as well. That wasn't part of what we did. That wasn't even in consideration of what we had previously. Was folks working 3 days in, 2 days out, or whatever it wasn't even an option because we weren't built for it. So out of COVID created a whole new way of working each day within sports. It created new ways to present. Well, again, if I'm presenting to AB and they're in New York, I'm not going to be able to fly every time to go meet with them. So we did it over the phone. We sent it to them on PowerPoint, and we would talk through it and say, all right, switch to page 4. Then we talk through that, and it would be, on the phone with somebody on a conference call. And, now we can go through everything, share it, and it's just a whole different ball game in regards to how the business works, both within the U.S. and internationally. We're big on the international side here, not only with the Suns, but, now with where I'm at with the Rockets. And we do so much stuff internationally. And so it's amazing what you can pull off, again, with the digital side of it. And a lot of that really came to light during COVID.
Do you think that and I'm not trying to call you old with this question, the younger talent there kind of helped with those type of things?
Oh, 1,000%. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. I mean, it was, again, I go back to Twitch. Like, I had no idea what the heck that was. And our younger folks are bringing it to the table, and that was huge, without a doubt. But I also feel like that in everything we do, right? You got to have shared voices. You got to have folks who have differing of opinions. I've been in this 25 years. More often than not, like, again, down the hallway of my team here, of the 16 people on our team, there's probably more than half that weren't born when I started in this business. Again, I think having that voice, if we're pursuing a client that their target demo is 18 to 25, outside of my 2 kids, I don't know what that is or what truly is going to make that resonate for those folks. So having the right voices around you that can bring their own ideas and share kind of how we would go about it different, I think makes you better. And I think it makes you smarter for having those type of people around you.
Yeah. We talked about the younger generation and technology. I want to switch it up and talk about the power of a handwritten note, which is the old days, doing the right thing when nobody's looking. Where do those values come from for you, and why is that so important? Why are those values instilled in you?
I was looking around because I was looking for a handwritten note. So It's always been important for me. I want to say originally it might have been my grandfather who was the one who kind of put that in my head of it being somewhat of an important thing or kind of how it mattered. And so again, I grew up in an era where we didn't have text messaging, we didn't have email. So the way you followed up with folks is you wrote a handwritten note, you wrote a letter to someone, and my mom was a big one around that as well. And I think those were important values that she had. Um, but I would say it kind of got even more reinforced when I was at IMG College. The gentleman who led IMG College, Ben Sutton, who is pioneer in the college sports industry. That was a big one for Ben. Ben would always write handwritten notes, not only to athletic directors or partners, he wrote handwritten notes to his people. And if you had a conversation with them, like again, my son played college football at Alabama, and Ben was going through his office and came across a helmet in his office that was half Alabama, half Miami Dolphins, and it was signed by guys who had played for both. He sent me the helmet and also a phenomenal handwritten note that was behind it as well, and why. So for me, to this day, it's an important one that I do in my daily practice. I try on Fridays to carve out time during my day to kind of catch up and write handwritten notes. There's a gentleman that is just north of where we are here in Dallas, Bob Bodine. Somebody, Andrew, you should reach out to connect in Dallas. And Bob is, again, another pioneer in the sports industry. And Bob talks about it in his stuff is, his company shuts down on Fridays at like noon. They'll do phone calls, which people don't do anymore. They'll reach out to partners, folks, just to check in, what's going on. And then they'll write a handwritten note to somebody
Wow.
just to say hello. And I think if you do it where it's intentional and you do it to where you're not just looking for something back, you're just reaching out, just like, hey, was thinking about you this week. Just want to let you know, look forward to catching up. Let's set some time in the next few weeks and touch base. And again, anybody can send a text message or an email. It takes the time to figure that out. And I think for young people, it takes time for them to figure out how do you address an envelope? Because a lot of young people don't even know how to address an envelope. So I think that's helpful. And I will tell you, my kids, when they were going, both kids were great athletes and are great athletes. And when they were both going through the recruiting process, whenever they would go visit a school, whenever they go to a camp, we always came home and I was like, write a handwritten note as a thank you to the coaches for what you did. No way, we don't do that, whatever. And I'm like, I'll tell you right now, you'll stand out. It'll make a difference. It'll show you who you are. It'll show your character of that. And the great part is it did, number one. Number two, to this day, now the two of them do it in their professional life, and they understand the impact that it makes and how it resonates with folks. Yeah, the power of a handwritten note, or I tell folks all the time, and mine's on order, and I'm looking around because I'm waiting for it, looking for kind of what the model was. But I order, like here at the Rockets, I order Rocket stationery. So I have the right stationery with my name on it, the Rockets, all that. And then that way, when I send it to someone versus just throwing the business card in, they have that personalization from me.
Yeah, I got some notes right here.
Love it. Love it. It makes, I'm telling you, it makes a difference.
I believe it.
I think everybody, one of the great things around Christmas is all the cards that show up during Christmas time, and you see the smile on people's faces. And the fact that people don't do it on a regular basis anymore, I think it makes a huge impact. And I will tell you, like again, this podcast is a lot of it's built around younger people and folks going into the industry and those things that are important. I will tell you this, because we just interviewed two people this week for a job. I will not make a recommendation on someone unless we get a handwritten note back from those candidates. Like that to me shows you care. And I don't say anything.
Yeah.
I don't say anything like, hey, make sure you write something back to us or whatever, but you will absolutely stand out in my book if you take the time to sit down and write a handwritten note that, again, shows you care.
Was there a moment that you can remember where, a small gesture like that or a handwritten note made a big impact for you towards someone else, or someone giving you a note?
Hmm. I feel like there's so many of them that are impactful. Um, but I also think like for me, like when I left the Suns to come to the Rockets, I wrote a handwritten note to every single team member that was on my team and just specific to them. Again, you send an email, right? People leave, they send an email to everybody in the company, and it's a blanket email. Appreciate all you guys. You guys were all great to work with, blah, blah, blah. If you write something specific to each person that tells you what that person meant to you, and the impact they had on you, that's a different connection point. That's a different value system of how you approach this. And so for me, that I most recently, like that was one for me that I thought was great. Um, and I'll tell you, I got a handwritten note from one of the, I guess I would call him a cultural leader at the Suns. This guy's one of the best in the business. I feel like I'm pretty good. I feel like when people come across me and they interact, they feel better about their day. This gentleman, um, man, if you're having a tough day, you go spend time with Kim, and he is just amazing. And I got a note from him out of the blue last week, and I'll frame it uh, in my office, like just heartfelt. Um, yeah, try not to tear up. Like just it was awesome, and
Yeah,
like to me, like that's what it's about.
yeah,
It's incredible.
yeah. No, yeah, that's amazing. And you mentioned earlier that you tried to teach your kids the same thing, and they do it to this day. I just want to talk about that and how how did you balance, having two kids growing up and the crazy hours and relocating, Portland to Phoenix? How do you balance that with being a dad?
It's tough. It is definitely tough. I would say, and my kids know this. I would say my first, oh gosh, 6 to 8 years in this job, I probably didn't do it right. Um, and I made the job more of a priority than what it should be. And and I learned from that, and kind of the wake up call of, all right, I need to look at this different. And I feel like I've done a pretty darn good job since then. And I try to teach young parents that as well too, that are in this industry, of what's most important. Um, but I felt like if I wasn't at every game, if I wasn't at every function we had, that something wasn't going to get done, or it couldn't get couldn't get pulled off the way it needs to get pulled off. Um, and the good part is, if you surround yourself with the right people can be there to help step up, even when you need to be there at a game or an event or whatever it is. And I think that's important. So I've tried to show that, kind of since that kind of wake up of how I need to look at this different, and try to be very present in everything my kids do. And I think that's the most important.
Yeah. And one of your sons, Thomas, obviously he played at Alabama and ended up getting drafted. What was it like for you watching your son, live out the NFL dream and yeah, what was that like?
Incredible. I mean, I think for me, I think I do much more pride in watching what your kids' success looks like versus your own. I think for me, like again, watching the success of the kids, I have much greater reward in watching their success. And my daughter picked up volleyball in middle school, and it just took off for her. So watching her get a college scholarship to play volleyball, and I loved watching her try to jump out of the building, and spike it on somebody or block someone. That was freaking awesome to watch and be a part of. And then to see kind of what Thomas was able to accomplish, as a player at Alabama, and then get drafted, and kind of have the run in the pro side of it, was incredible. And then to watch what they've done post playing careers, to kind of see what they're doing within their kind of professional lives. It's incredibly rewarding to see their success.
Yeah, and can you talk a little bit about the viral phone call?
Oh, yeah. So it was one I don't know if he would go back and do it different, but it's also one that you just go in the moment of the excitement behind it. But so Thomas thought he was going to get drafted probably a pick later, like 3 picks later. Washington had the pick 3 picks later, and he was talking to 3 or 4 different teams on the phone with the agent around teams that were going to want to take him as a free agent if he didn't get drafted. So then Carolina called, and he didn't expect the call. He thought they were calling about the free agency piece, and he got the news that from Coach Rule they were drafting him, and he got a little fired up and excited, and as did Coach Rule, and as did the owner, David Tepper. Man, it was an incredible moment. Again, I think it was 2 million plus views that were out there because Carolina posted it on their end, and just a magical moment. I mean, just incredible, true joy and jubilation of all the hard work and time put into it, and certainly a blessing to be a part of that and experience that. Yeah, you see it on TV, but to see it right there and up close was pretty special.
Yeah, and obviously throughout your career, you've worn so many hats at so many different places. What do you think if somebody were to write a book about your life, what chapter should be highlighted?
Man, it's a great question. I would say I would look at it as leadership. I think I'm a very good leader in leading people. I think I take great pride in being a parent and kind of having been there for both my kids and supported them and made sure that they had every opportunity that I may not have and providing them that. So I think leadership, both as a parent and as a leader within the business, would be the one for me. And I think doing it with the right passion and enthusiasm is probably part of that.
On the other end, is there kind of a failure or tough lesson that you now view maybe as a gift in terms of what it taught you?
I would say, like, again, the career, trying to play in the NFL, and you certainly hope you're going to play 3 to 5 years, and then when it stops kind of on a dime, and you didn't make a ton of money during that time playing, and then you got to scramble and figure out what it is you're going to do and where you go next. I think having that to now scramble and be like, okay, how do I fall back on this education that I took great pride in school, not knowing if I was going to make it or not, and I think that gave me the passion of sports. It gave me the passion of what I could do. And then again, I take that quote unquote, now we can call it failure because 1% of college athletes get even a shot at the NFL side of it, but it was not one that I didn't turn it into a quote unquote long-standing career on the field, but it transferred into something where it's been 25 years off the field of a career. So I think that that would be one that I would look at that way.
Yeah, and you've mentioned impact a couple times during this episode, and why do you think impact can sometimes outweigh a title or revenue?
Question. So for me, I've never chased title. My kids know this, and they literally preach it all the time. And I've said it from day one with them. Never chase title, never chase money, chase people and opportunity. If you're not getting up in the morning and doing cartwheels, you're doing the wrong thing. And that's the piece for me is if you get up each morning and it's a job and you're going to work, you need to do something different. You got to, for me, it's been one of, I've passed up multiple times, quote unquote, higher level C type roles because I know what is important to me. I love partnerships. I love the partnership side of the business. The ticketing side of the business is not one that excites me. It's not one that I, care to lead and stuff. If I have to, I'll do it, but it's not one for me that I know will get me out of bed in the morning and make me do cartwheels if I can still do a cartwheel. But the partnership side, I love it. And so that's, again, chase those things that are important, that get you excited, that allow you to really be good at where that is at versus being half-ass in one and being pretty darn good in the other, and then who suffers on the half-ass side because maybe you're not as good as that, and where you go. And so for me, that's how I look at it. Is I know I'm pretty damn good on this side of the business, so why not focus on that and be able to make the impact that way.
Is there a person that mentored you that sticks to you to this day that you still think about?
I would say that I've been very blessed to have great mentors and leaders around me. And I think that is one where every place I've been, I've had that. And, from Pop Warner coach, I had that, when I was getting in trouble each and every day at school and not in a good place. And he sat me down and really put me on the straight and narrow. And it probably started then, at a young age of kind of his guidance at that age. And I still go back to Coach Mulligan and the impact that he had. He probably started it. And I'd say, again, I've been very blessed at each place I've been, from Larry Miller and Sarah Mensah at the Trailblazers, Mark Mastrove at 24 Hour Fitness, who was just freaking amazing. Ben Sutton and Roger Vandersnick and George Pine at IMG, who, again, still to this day, I lean on, and, kind of use their guidance for kind of where I go. And, Dan Costello and, Greg Economo at the Suns, and the relationships there are amazing. And, coming here to the Rockets, and I'm 30 days in, and, working for Gretchen Shearer. Gretchen's freaking amazing. She's a pistol, and she's really freaking good at what this is. And she came up through the revenue side as a president. And so she gets it. She gets the grind of what we're doing every day. And I think when you have somebody you report to as the president, who is also going to be side by side with you and roll the sleeves up and get after it, it's a pretty special and amazing thing.
Our audience, in this podcast loves to hear stories. Do you have a favorite story throughout your career? So just something that you can't forget, like a crazy moment or something.
I mean, I think there's incredible stories, right? A pitch that you're like, there's no way this is going to happen, but let's see what goes. And it turns into a massive, great deal, or relationships that you've built that just have really parlayed it into incredible friendships and whatever. But it's funny. I was the game last night, the game one of the finals. Richard Jefferson referenced a play that happened in Phoenix at the end of the game. So there's 0.3 seconds left. And it goes back to one of the moments for me that was absolutely insane. We were in the NBA finals. No, we were in the Western Conference finals, and we were playing the Clippers. The Suns were playing the Clippers. Clippers made a huge play. They're up. We have no time left in the clock, literally like last night, 0.3 seconds or whatever. And Richard referred to it as the Valley Oop. And that's what we called it, was the Valley Oop. And one of our players, I think Jay Crowder, lobbed the ball to the basket to DeAndre Ayton, and he dunked it with no time left, and we won. Yep. And the place, I'm getting the chills right now. The place went nuts. And there's a great picture of Stephen A. Smith. Just, you can see his face just stunned. And I mean, what an incredible moment, and experience. And that was pretty cool. That was pretty electric. I love that. The city lit up. I mean, literally, we're selling T-shirts that say Valley Oop on the T-shirt. So that was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I want to ask you some rapid fire questions here. This is a segment that our audience has been loving for sure. You've lived in, California, Oregon, Arizona, Texas. What feels like home? Where's your favorite place to live?
Good question. Rapid fire, so I'll be quick. I'm still a San Diego kid at heart. That's my quote unquote hometown. I'm a San Diego kid, so I'm gonna say San Diego.
Do you have a favorite Mexican food spot down there?
Oh gosh, it's a great question. El Torito was probably the original one that I would go to growing up, so I'm gonna say El Torito. I don't know why I threw that out, but El Torito.
Yeah, when I was talking with Eric on our other episode, he mentioned that he worked at the spaghetti factory, and I thought that was so cool. I love that place.
There was a place, and Eric will know exactly what it is. There was a place by campus in San Diego State called Salazar's. Not good Mexican food, but pretty fantastic at 2 a.m. And the number 5 plate, we all joke. We're in like a group text message of like 15 of us from college still to this day. And we all joke about the number 5 plate at Salazar's that you grab at 2 in the morning. So it worked at that time.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So,
Who was your favorite sport team as a kid?
oh, San Diego Padres. Tony
By
Gwynn,
far.
San Diego Padres. Hands down.
Still to this day?
Oh, absolutely. I'm a Pods fan through and through. Chargers moved when I was older. Clippers moved when I was 12. So the San Diego Padres have been through and through. T. Gwynn was my favorite athlete all time. So yeah, hands down Padres.
What's one word your colleagues would use to describe you?
Passionate.
What is your go-to pump-up song?
So that's funny. One that you wouldn't like. You'll have to look it up and you'll listen to it and you go, okay, I get it. It's called "When Worlds Collide" by Power Man 5000. I found it in the workout years ago, and it's always one. Like if I go on my playlist and look at the 25 most played songs, that's one of them. It'll pump you up.
What's your favorite perk of your job?
It's a good question. Game nights. I love game nights. 41 nights a year, I get to host 18,000 people at my office. That's pretty badass.
That's pretty cool. Do you have a bucket list sporting event that you've never been to?
Oh, yes. Literally, I think there's 3 remaining on the list. And there's probably more, but there's 3 like kind of out there that are remaining. Derby, Kentucky Derby, Indy 500, and then I want to go see a English Premier game.
That's awesome.
Outside
That's
of that,
awesome.
I think I've pretty much checked off most of them. I've been pretty fortunate to be at the Masters and be at a bunch of them, but I would say the Derby because I want to do the Derby right. Don't want to just half-ass it and like so that's the
Yeah.
part for me too is I want to do it right. So those would be those 3.
If you were not working in sports business, you weren't working in the sports industry at all, what would you be doing right now?
Good question there. I would say I'd probably be coaching high school football and teaching.
Coaching high school football and teaching. Awesome. Well, I want to ask you one more question here. This is the question I ask to every single guest I have on the show. You've seen so many people chase this industry. Some people make it, some don't. What separates the people who succeed from the ones who, fade out or give up? And what advice would you give to young people trying to break into this industry today?
Go reverse. I would say the breaking in is relationships. It is, I talked about Bob Bodine earlier. Bob talks about you already know all the people you need to know, and it's called the power of who. And so, how do you take your network of people that are around you and open up doors to be able to get in? Part of that's internships, getting internships and getting involved and starting to build that sphere of influence and that network. That's important on the front end of how do you get in? How do you quote unquote survive? How do you make it? How do you have success? Raise your hand. Raise your hand. Jump in and take on as much as you can take on. Do it with a smile. Do it with understanding that you've got to do the grind. You got to pay your dues. You're not going to get promoted every 18 months. Do the grind. Raise your hand. Figure out other things where you can make a difference and an impact. How do you make yourself the most valuable piece in that department or in that group so that, again, leaders notice who you are because of you busting your tail, not because you're freaking walking in the office each time and, wanting to make yourself noticed. Make yourself noticed by doing the right thing. Again, being present, doing it with passion and a smile, and understand the fact that the hard part in this business, it's not 9 to 5. It's not Monday through Friday. It's tough hours.
Yeah.
But I will tell you again, 25 years into it, gray in the beard, I love it. I can't imagine doing something different. Again, we have great young people that are around us, I think is amazing. That energizes you each time. I talk about 41 game nights. You get a young person that is coming to a game for the first time with their dad, their mom as a family, and you watch the eyes light up on that young person at a game. And that night, they now fall in love with Jalen Green. They now fall in love with, Alpi Shingun, like whatever that is. Me, Tony Gwynn, going to a Padres game and looking at how Tony Gwynn approached the game. At my age today, I'm a Tony Gwynn fan because of how he approached the game. Every single night we create that opportunity. That's freaking awesome. And so how do you harness that and get ticket holders to embrace that? How do you harness that and get partners to associate their brand with it? That's special. And I think going to sell, and again, I got great friends selling insurance. That's awesome. We need it. I can't get passionate and excited about that. Not like you can with sports.
Yep. Yeah, I love that answer. That's amazing. Thank you.
There you
I
go.
bet some people will get some motivation and some passion from that answer.
There you
Well,
go.
that's it. That's all I have for you. Thank you so much for coming on, and that's it for Sports Business Unplugged. Make sure you guys reach out on TikTok, Instagram, my LinkedIn. Tom has LinkedIn too. And yeah, make sure to watch this video, and I'm excited to put this one out.
Love it. One thing I always close with is go fight, win. Appreciate it, Andy.
Go fight, win. All right. Awesome.